I'm hitting, okay. Hi, this is Mark Halpert with my wife Mira Halpert, who's the developer of the 3D Learner program. Tonight we're going to be talking about parenting your right brain kinesthetic learner, the kid who learns best when they see and experience information in 4th grade and above. We did another presentation for people who have kids at grades 3 and below, and this one focuses on the older kids. And part of our thought process is success really starts with asking the right questions. And in our case, we didn't do that right away. We had an experience where our daughter in 8th grade was told she wasn't college material. And it was an IEP meeting. And I turned to my daughter and said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And she said, "The teacher I never had." And Mira became a mom on a mission and developed a program that allowed Julie to improve her reading comprehension 4.2 grade levels in 7 months. And next year she'll get her doctorate in education. And so it's really, Mira, what was the question that you've discovered the answer to?
I realized she learned in pictures. She was not the kid that learned in words. It was really important for her to be able to see an understanding and for her to be able to create this image in her mind about what words meant, and certainly patterns of words. So sound, just sounding out words wasn't exactly the best way. And what I realized for me was that was really true. And where I could read, but it was really interesting because I really didn't understand that people didn't think like that. So that's been a real eye-opener, and it's been wonderful for me to be able to meet so many people that, since we now have this avenue to be able to talk to people and see them. Before, when we would only be able to use phones, I would still picture them on the other end. So, whether it was better or worse. And that's really what she needed to be able to do. And what we're finding, that so many kids that are struggling with reading are struggling because they don't get it. They don't get the code. And then therefore they don't really understand. And then they aren't really able to read or listen to things that really engage them. And so then they don't want to do it. And then if you don't want to do something and you're not very good at it, then you don't do it. And then you don't get any better. So it's a vicious cycle that goes down.
And one of the things to understand is, while we're located here in South Florida, we've helped kids in the last year plus from Alaska, Washington, Phoenix, Utah. Okay.
We had overseas kids. Yes. So we are able to do things now. And I know, especially post-pandemic, through the pandemic, when parents are saying, "Oh, my kids don't do very well online." When you have a hands-on experiential program and you're working with your body and you're getting kids moving and you're doing things in clay and you're doing things hands-on, we have found that we are truly engaging kids. And in fact, we're working with a young high school lady whose mom just told us yesterday that of all of the other programs that she's ever been, she gets off now happy, and she's excited that she's actually finally, after all these years, getting it, that it's kind of like connecting the dots. And we don't do just one thing. So welcome. We're glad to have you here tonight. We know that when we're talking with parents of younger kids and they're trying to be able to get them off on the right foot, that's one thing. For parents of kids, 4th graders that are above, it's hard because now they have already felt the frustration. And for so many parents, if they're like we tried any number of things thinking that the next piece was going to give us the right answer. And it really, if we listen to our kids and we are very, my core belief is we go towards kids' strengths. We have to identify them. And then what I found that I'm really good at is identifying these kids and then using those strengths to be able to help them learn success, be successful learners and be successful creators, and know how they actually have to be able to access information so they can then ask people. I think the only way we know how to communicate, right, is with words. And when we ask a kid, "Did you understand it?" and they go, "Yeah," they don't know they don't, right?
And the scary thing historically was that 45% of the kids with disabilities were 3 to 4.9 years behind in middle and high school. An additional 21% 5 or more years below grade level in reading comprehension. But what we found recently, which is somewhat surprising and depressing, is we're finding a lot of kids who don't have an identified disability who are 3, 4, and 5 years behind. So the system has basically failed to identify kids early, and our kids, partially due to the pandemic and partially due to the disconnect between how they learn and the way schools teach, a lot of kids are way further behind than their parents thought they were. But here's the good news. They can make significant gains in months.
Well, and some of the things that we're seeing that have been researched is that they're not, parents are like, teachers are a little cautious about being able to give you the exact information, and grades, depending on where your child is at school, grades can be deceptive. So we get a number of parents who are saying, well, my kids were getting A's and B's, or certainly B's, and they were seemingly doing fine. It was because parents were helping them do a lot of reteaching and relearning, doing things at home. So it's really important to understand where your kids really are, how they are, and how they're progressing, and are they progressing like they should be. I think I wrote a blog about the fact of, when we're talking to teachers about, okay, so you say my kid is doing okay, and they were doing better than they were last year, but does that, if they're falling further and further behind their peers, that's obviously a problem.
So we've had 27 years experience helping kids in public, private, charter, and homeschool students succeed. And it's really with a transformational hands-on program that improves spelling, vocabulary, reading fluency, reading comprehension, as well as attention, working memory, processing speed, and visual processing, and boosting kids' self-confidence.
Right. And really, though it says that we are helped homeschool, we are also truly collaborative, that we are helping so many more kids that are actually in school, that are, as a collaborative program with teachers. We are here to be able to support the education that what your kids are getting in school, so that we're wanting to be able to make it easier for these kids to be able to be successful. When Mark asked me about yes, I am that visual experiential learner. So I also became a dyslexia certified coach using the new UFly program, which is based on Orton Gillingham, extensive research on the science of reading research, especially an extensive practice teaching, even though I've had 40 years of teaching. It was really teaching kids in this intensive way to be able to help them. But what we realized is, especially integrating it within what I have done for the last 27 years, that hands-on engagement, having them understand, looking at patterns, not just, just looking at sounds, made an incredible difference.
And the thing parents often ask us, my kid's an 8th grade or 9th grade or 10th grade, is it too late? Recognize this program was originally developed for our 11th grade daughter. Okay, yes, as one parent said, I wish my kid had this program back in 2nd or 3rd grade. We wish we'd done that for our daughter too, but it's never too late. Okay, we've even had kids 32 go through the program. Okay, so but it doesn't matter what age your kid is. Okay, they can, if they're a lot smarter than present results would indicate, the likelihood is they learn differently, they have some other challenges, but they've got the talent to succeed if they're taught the way they learn, if their issues are identified and addressed, and if you boost their self-confidence.
So understanding reading versus reading comprehension, boy, that's a big loaded question, especially for 4th grade and above. My kid doesn't want to read. They don't like to read. They think reading is stupid. Using reading and fun in the same sentence is just not possible for these kids. And the challenge becomes is that, remember, a lot of times these kids are being assessed on how well they can read fluently out loud, meaning can they decode, sound out words and read them within a certain amount of time to be able to then, the equation is that if you can do that fluently, then you can understand what you're reading. But that doesn't always be the case, because sometimes these kids just don't understand the words they're reading. It's like they're able to put the sound and symbol together, and they're able to do that, but they don't really understand it, and they're being drilled over and over again of words that it just doesn't make, they aren't engaged. It doesn't excite them. So then they don't really want to be able to read, and they don't understand what it is they're reading. And for fourth grade and above, let's remember, they are not learning to read anymore. We are reading to learn. So I want you to read the chapter on science, or I want you to read the chapter on the Civil War, or on some history or geography. And they're expected to be able to not only decode those words, but they're actually expected to understand what it is they're reading. And this idea about reading for fun, and reading without necessarily having a book report, or reading without having to be able to answer a whole bunch of questions all the time, they aren't creating. Remember I said that I think in pictures, we need to make sure that these are the kids that those words create pictures for them. They create an emotion, but they also create a picture. And that's what we need to be able to help kids do. When letters are in a particular pattern, in a particular order, yes, they make a particular sound, but they also have a particular meaning.
And one of the things that's really important is to recognize is these two may be at very different levels. So we had a special ed person at school assess a 10th grader who was getting these in most of his classes. And she said he was reading
really hard, struggling.
He was reading at the 9th grade level. And I said to the psychologist, did you test his reading comprehension level? She said, no, I didn't. And I said, could you? She said, well, you know what it is, so why don't you just tell me? I said, no, I'd actually like to see you assess the kids independently. And she did. And she assessed him just as we did at the 4th grade level. And the special ed person said, how's that possible? I thought the two correlate pretty well. They may on the average, but we have seen cases of 4, 5, 6 year differences. So you always want to know what both of these scores are, because they're both important to know. And this is the one that dyslexia programs focus on, but dyslexia programs focus on decoding phonemic awareness and reading fluency, whereas you want your kid to be both good at reading and at reading comprehension. And what 3D Learner does that's fairly unique, there are some programs that do it too, but is we address both.
Right. But we address both because my favorite saying, if a child can't learn the way you teach, then maybe we need to teach the way a child learns. That's exactly what 3D Learner does. We get to know your child. We get to know what they're really good at. We get to know what frustrates them. But we also really want to be able to use those abilities to be able to use that creativity, use their abilities to be able to get it, making it so that reading is exciting for them, and that it takes them into a different world. It is really hard to be able to compete with this visual thing, right? I get that, because, and let's remember, and thank goodness for, look at the explosion of things called graphic novels. That's what we used to call comic books, but now it's a huge industry of graphic novels that kids really like them, and that's fine. Do me a favor when they love YouTube, when they're watching YouTube, and when they're watching movies, and when they're watching television, or turn on closed captions. The words will go across the page. Then at least those words are coming to life for them, because that's what reading is about. They look at us and go, oh, well, yeah, you never had computers when you were growing up, or you didn't have these. The point really is it's these, and certainly AI is going to be a positive piece for these kids. They will show us how to be able to use them. And oh, by the way, if you don't think that these visual experiential learners are the kids that are the ones that developed AI, think again. The most creative kids that are thinking big picture, that are not getting down to the nitty gritty of pieces of what letters and sounds make. Remember, that doesn't matter to them, because it's hard for them. But boy, they've got a big picture of an idea about what the world could be. And believe me, these kids aren't choosing not to read. No, it breaks my heart every time I hear these kids that it's like they want to be, they're trying really hard, but sometimes there are also other things that are getting in the way. And that's what we want to talk a little bit about tonight with you is it's not always, we've spent a lot of time now just talking about that decoding piece, probably too much time. Sometimes it's all of these other things that are going on. There is visual processing. Are my eyes working together? Are they looking where they're supposed to see? Okay, where they're supposed to be looking. Or do I remember? Can I have the attention to be able to hold it together? Can I plan? Am I looking for patterns? Can I sequence? Do I do things in a particular order? Have you ever asked your child about what they did in a really wonderful activity that they just went to and they jump all over the place? Yeah, that's their movie. Oh, I did this. Oh, I did this. I did this. Stop. Have them stop to be able to think, can they do it in a particular order? That's executive function. Can I hold myself back? Can I self-regulate myself to be able to now think in sequence about how something happened?
And we're talking about helping these kids who have the potential to do far better. We've had kids come to us whose parents have spent $40,000-$50,000 on reading programs. And we had one young lady from Texas who was reading she was going to fifth grade, reading at the first grade level and comprehending at the first grade level and reading very slowly. And we were able to improve her reading comprehension 4 grade levels in 6 months, double her reading speed, cut her homework time by 50%, and cut the amount of time that her mother had to help her with homework from 2.5 hours down to 10 minutes. So, and boost her self-esteem. And mom's only problem was she had to get used to the fact that her daughter didn't need her as much. She said, that's a high-class problem. I can handle this one. But so it's really not just people in South Florida. It's people all over the country and actually all over the world who have this potential to do far better with an approach that plays to their strengths, identifies and addresses their weaknesses, and helps their parents to be the coach and advocate their child needs. And one mom said to me, why doesn't every program help the parents be the coach and advocate their child needs? We can't answer that because we wouldn't do a program that didn't help the parent become even more effective. Because I'm a recovering screamaholic, and I know how frustrating it was for me, but it doesn't help. And so we work with parents on how to do it calmly, but assertively and collaboratively. But most important of all, in a way that boosts your kids' success rate and their self-esteem.
So, keys to success. Number one, 2, and 3 is let's just reject the status quo. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. Right? Scheming where it's going to be. It'll just get through this. They'll just outgrow it. No. Most importantly is understand how your child learns best, what their strengths are, and recognize their challenges. They are not lazy. They are not, believe me, they are not bullying. They are not, okay? They are working so much harder than all the other kids around them. And so it is really important that they want to do better. They want to succeed. They have not chosen to be able to be like this, but they are. So why don't we use their creativity? Why don't we use their strengths? Maybe they're artistic, maybe they're musical, maybe they're sports-minded. What do we have to be able to do to be able to help them use their abilities to be able to move them up? You need to certainly understand where they're at, what their present level of performance. Yes, maybe they're making progress, but if they are still behind where their peers are, that gap, as Mark showed you from the beginning, that gap is going to get wider and wider, and their anxieties, and especially as they're looking around their friends, they know that they are not doing as well as others around them, or their siblings, right? Their younger siblings or older siblings.
When we talk about setting bold goals, it's not only for reading and reading comprehension, but it may be the kid's really good at baseball or really good at dance or really good at singing. You want to set goals that excite them, because one of the nice things about what we do is when when we work on neural timing, we work on visual processing, we work on processing speed, it improves academics, athletics, dance skills, etc. So it's so important to find a way to kind of hook your kid into saying this program can help me not only academically, but can help me in baseball or dance or music or whatever it is I want to do. And it really helps. And then select the right dream team, because it's not about getting a tutor for these kids. It's about getting the right person that knows how to identify and leverage their strengths, identify and address their challenges, and help you to be the coach and advocate your child needs.
One of the things that's really key when we talk about engagement is that, especially for kids that are fourth grade and up, is that they need to be a part of this process. They know they are struggling. They don't need to be reminded. Okay, we are almost always, I'd love to tell you that we're the first place that kids come. That's really our goal, right? Ultimately, is to be able to have that. We are usually the place that parents have tried something else. And so kids are certainly skeptical as our parents. I get it. But we really engage. We like to meet the kids. I like to tell you that we've got a really good track record. We and our 3D learner team are really good at relating to and understanding these kids. And these kids, we need to rope them into, they are part of the process. They are part of their own solution. It's their life. So we encourage you to be able to talk to them about what they want to do, what's important to them, what kinds of goals they want to be able to work on. Remember, their big picture, they have goals. So yes, it's really important. Go ahead.
What's visible is a lot of times the decoding and reading fluency is what schools talk about. Anxiety and frustration is what parents, especially moms, feel. Math has become a nightmare for these kids, okay? Because especially in fourth grade and above, it goes from arithmetic to math word problems. And we had one study which we'd done, about 11,000 parents had filled out, and only 2 of them said their kid was good at math word problems. And in retrospect, they both admitted they were wrong. Math word problems are a nightmare for these kids, not only because the words
get language rich, so they're trying to trick, right?
Okay, and the reading comprehension, again, it's not, especially in fourth grade and above, schools tend not to assess that. And schools look at executive function issues. They might say, okay, your kid's got working memory and processing speed problems. What accommodations should we have for your child? And we look at them and say, you want to know what those problems are, because they can all be addressed. And what's invisible to many is that your kid learns differently. I've never seen a school assessment that ever assessed for how the kid learns best. And only some psychologists assess for that. So we'll talk about this a little bit later. An easy way to assess for whether your kid's a right brain kinesthetic learner, which means their right brain lights up when they're learning. They learn best when things are hands-on. And the other thing that's invisible to many and controversial to some is this question of visual processing, especially in the dyslexia world. They'll say dyslexia and has nothing to do with vision. But we're going to tell you that a child who has dyslexia is highly likely to have a visual processing issue. And if they have both issues, you want to identify and address both.
I was talking to a dad today who was like, yes, that was me. I'm the Lego kid, right? These are kids that love to build stuff, love to put things together, love to take them apart, maybe not put them back together. But yes, these are the kids that are, they're the ones that'll problem solve to how your computer works, right? They're the kids we count on to be able to help us with all the tech problems that they know what to be able to do. So this is our 3D learner model. It's a visual. It's different colors. We look at how does your child, we talked about this briefly, is that how your child learns best and that they see and experience information. Do they have a visual processing, meaning are their eyes working together? Sometimes it shows up that they skip words or lines. Sometimes it's lining up math problems. It's copying off the board. It is messy handwriting. It is not putting assignments where they're supposed to be. It's executive function issues. Are they present? All of that, and dyslexia may or may not be there. Anxiety is overreaching. It's a little hard to be able to do this in a flat 2D model. What we're talking about, a 3D model. It's really that bubble that goes around all of it. It affects everything. So it doesn't just affect one thing.
And by the way, if you look at these 5 factors, which whether it's learning differently, visual process, executive function, dyslexia, or the anxiety and frustration, most of our students have 3, 4, or all 5 of these challenges or strengths. So it's really important to understand which one affects your child.
Right.
And the Gifted Development Center, which is a center run by Dr. Linda Silverman, who's a colleague we work closely with, has developed an assessment that looks at, is your child a right brain kinesthetic learner? She'll call them visual spatial learners. It's the same thing. It's a 15-question test. You can copy the QR code, and take a picture of it. And we recommend doing this, one, by yourself to see what your answers are, and then do it with your child, because your child may say some different things. And we've had parents who said, you never told me you saw that way. And the child never been asked either. So this is a question that you've probably never seen before, but it's an eye opener, and it opens the whole door to a different way of accessing your child's strengths.
Right. We also do a visual, for part of the 3D learner assessment is using something called the Visograph. And they're goggles that fit over our eyes. Yes, that we do in person. But there are some other assessments that we can do online that will certainly do similar kinds of things. But what we're showing you this for is to be able to show you what our eyes are supposed to be doing when they're working together. See, mine don't necessarily. When it's kind of like that old typewriter, right? That you go, all the way over to the left, and it's word, or 2, 3 words at a time that you see, and then it goes sweeps back, and they are supposed to be parallel. This student whose true Visograph was one of our former students, that's where they started. And you see that peripheral vision, as Mark was talking about earlier, that peripheral vision, that they're looking at the world outside of here, but it's really difficult to be able to tell them to be able to focus in on words, math problems, copying off a board thing. And they don't know that that's
this is a report. This is actually, we couldn't find a student that read this well, so we used our optometrist vision. He read perfectly. This was a young man whose family had spent almost $40,000 on a dyslexia treatment. And the father said to me, you can't convince me that I spent almost $40,000, and they didn't know that my kid had a visual processing issue. And his wife said, we just showed on the machine how our son's eyes just skip around. So this is a problem that's not only invisible, but missed by so many people. It is controversial to us. It's essential to identify and address this problem, because it impacts reading. It impacts when you're going from the board back to your paper. It impacts math big time in terms of lining things up with missing pluses and minus signs. It impacts sports, and it impacts over 70% of the visual right brain kinesthetic learners we see. So it's a really important issue to identify. And here's the QR code to take this assessment. Do it with your child, because this one, their answers may well surprise you. And we've had a mom who said, you didn't tell me that you saw doubles sometimes. He said, well, I thought everybody did. And that's a pretty standard.
Right. So am I supposed to see him? Yeah, am I supposed to see him? Right. Understanding executive function. There's a lot. You probably have heard this executive function buzzword around everywhere. Exactly what does it mean? And to me, talk about that picture learner. It's an executive, right? The executive that's at the top of the building, and they're supposed to be able to handle the janitorial staff and the secretarial staff and all of the big decisions that are supposed to be, they're supposed to be doing everything. Well, that's what an executive function does. It's supposed to be able to take all the information in and integrate it and do it in such a way that you can regulate yourself to be able to, oh, I have to handle this and then I have to handle that. Attention, working memory, how fast we process speed. Can I handle the different kinds of things without being so overwhelmed? When we get it right, it becomes a star. And that I sort of love this visual for that, because we do need to be able to help our kids be able to make these and make them stars, and have them know that these are kinds of issues that can be helped.
And
Right?
by the way, when you look at this whole picture and you look at visual processing and processing speed, we had a kid a couple of years ago who was trying to get accommodations for the SAT because he was only reading 125 words a minute. He couldn't finish the passages. Well, it turns out when you addressed his reading speed, we got it up to 300 words a minute. He actually finished the test with time to spare. So you can actually significantly improve performance in so many areas, whether it be reading, math, sports, by improving the executive function and visual processing skills.
Right. So where does it start? It starts by having us do an assessment. And we want our kids to be able to go on this upward spiral. So the assessment is the structure of intellect assessment. Has been around a really long time, and it looks at 26 underlying skills that are needed to be able to be, that a student needs to be able to be successful in school. It looks at a lot of evaluation skills. When I look at something, can I evaluate it and know how to be able to make a good decision? Do I know how to be able to see things from a different perspective? Do I have a flexibility of thought that I'm able to see things differently and take in that information and make decent decisions? So the structure and the structure of intellect the basic premise is that it is a student that hasn't learned that ability yet. So we need to know, and we have found that some kids are at college level in certain thinking skills and at grade level in some others, and then below at others. And you're thinking, well, wait, they're only below in sort of a couple, but if those two basic skills or a few basic skills are lower, it's what's bringing all of it down. Think how great that they could be if those were all up. And it's all doable. It's not like there's like, oh, they have a complete deficit and they'll never do this. No, that's not exactly at all. We do the visograph, we do the interactive metron, and oh, by the way, all of these can be done remotely. So when we talk about kids from all over the world, in whatever time zone, it has been a really positive piece, and we have found amazing success because especially these kids are really busy. They don't need to spend 30 minutes or 50 minutes being able to drive someplace for an hour or two. We're able to really get these kids engaged. I've picked up on a lot of visual issues online because I can actually really see what kids are seeing. And we're able to actually have fun doing this. We get these kids engaged. We get them to be able to feel good about themselves and that they want to be able to keep doing those successes more and more and more until they get this I can attitude. It's really awesome to be able to see them soar. I'm proud to tell you that we have kids, yes, that are now adults. I've been doing this long enough, that are doing some amazing, wonderful things. And it all did start from having them have an assessment that's different than an IQ assessment. It's different than, looking at what's wrong with kids. We're looking at what kids can do, and it is easy to do. We can do it over a number of sessions, as I said, online or in person.
And we've had students, by the way, we've done the whole program online. We've also had students from Alaska, Washington, and Arizona come here for a week, and then we do the follow-up work online. And these kids have made 3-4 year gains in their reading comprehension.
Within months.
Teachers argued we didn't send back the same kid. The kid's attitude had changed, because a lot of what we're doing is taking a kid who was previously struggling and may have been a little bit contentious at times and make him into a much more successful student who's able to be much more effective as a student and more collaborative, because we tell them, when you don't understand something, you got to work it out with your teacher, because your teacher's actually on your side. You just have to enroll them and make sure that,
as I said, it takes a village. Yes, it does. And we train you as a parent. You're an integral part of this process. And especially for our kids that are 4th grade and above, we engage them about engaging you, how to be able to communicate with your parents effectively, to be able to
and we teach you as parents how to be a bit calmer.
Right. So our assessment special through the end of this month is that we will include, just sign up for the assessment, and we will make it possible for you to have access to the Safe and Sound Protocol, which is a Dr. Stephen Porges, which is amazing program that is available remotely, right through your phone or through a tablet, to be able to help you and your family be able to reducing anxiety and stress, to be able to help modulate regulation. I'm going to almost get it out. And we will help you with that. That is not just something we just send you and you do. It has been a truly wonderful place to be able to start, to be able to connect with your kids, and to be able to have them start to be able to heal. We all have had a certain amount of trauma over these last number of years, and it is a wonderful place to be able to start. We love being able to start any learning program with them having this as a base. And I will tell you, every parent has been so grateful to be able to have this, because even that is a wonderful place for them to be able to
start. It's a $300 value we include with the investment of these for the assessment.
Right.
And we try to make it easy for you. Okay. If you want to just have a conversation about how to put your child on the pathway to success, give us a call at 561-361-7495, or you can schedule a Zoom call at 3dlearner.com/booknow. And just take this opportunity to think about what it would be like if your child was reading comprehension was 2, 3, 4 years better within the next 4 to 6 months, whether their self-esteem was better, and whether they thought their attitude was, I'm a smart kid who learns differently and proud of it.
We're thrilled to have you join us tonight or on replay. Please don't hesitate to give us comments. We love having parents. Thank you, Priscilla, to be able to be wonderful, our wonderful supportive parents. And I have to tell you, over the last 27 years, we've been blessed to be able to have probably the best parents that want to be able to do the right thing. We're thrilled to have you. Don't ever hesitate to be able to contact us. If you have any questions, have any comments, we're thrilled to have you. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us on replay. Please don't hesitate to contact us. Talk to you soon. And by the way, it's the beginning of the school year, but your kids can make amazing progress. Let's get together. We'll talk to you soon.
And Cecilia, thank you very much for your comment. We love helping your son.
All right. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.